Today's episode is full of fun Christmas projects using Dollar Tree gift bags. We will be using several different techniques to create high-end decor and gifts. I would like to thank Cricut for sponsoring today's video. I hope you enjoy! In some of the higher end stores like Kirkland's, you can find Christmas canvas art for anywhere between $67 to $83. Now they have some beautiful images, but I think we can make something for a lot less. I want mine to have a frame, so I'm using an 11 by 14 thrifted frame and this gorgeous bag from Dollar Tree, which is very similar to our inspiration piece. All of it's not going to fit on there, so I'm going to pick the largest portion and use the backing to trace that out, so I'll be able to cut the front part of this bag off. And what's wonderful about these bags from Dollar Tree is that the design is on both sides, so you could create two of these. One for yourself and one as a gift. You could apply Mod Podge to the back, but I want to be able to change mine out if I choose to, so I'm using some double-sided sticky tape on all the edges as well as in the middle, and I'm going to attach that to the glass so it will be nice and sturdy. Then, to make it look like a real piece of art, we're going to take some Mod Podge, put a nice thick layer to create some brush strokes. That thick layer will dry clear, but it's going to leave those brush strokes behind. Now you'll want to let that dry for several hours. Now that it's dry, hopefully you can see on camera those brush strokes going all throughout it. We're going to take some more Mod Podge, and this time I'm going to put a really thick layer, just pouncing the brush up and down. I'm going to do this over both of the snowmen, and then I'm going to do this all over the roof on all of the houses. I want it nice and thick. It's going to give it some texture, but it will dry clear, so you'll still be able to see those beautiful colors throughout. Then I'm going to take the paintbrush and put a thick line all throughout the branches on the tree so that when everything dries, it's going to look like it was hand painted. Just go throughout it, create your brush strokes however your image is, and then you'll want to set that to the side because you put it on there pretty thick, and let it dry for maybe 4 or 5 hours. Now that mine has dried, I hope you can see the texture through the camera on the roof as well as all of those brush strokes. I'm going to see if I can get the light just right so you guys can see it. I'm going to go ahead and put this back into my frame. Now you could put the backing in if you want to be able to hang it up, but this is how it turned out, and I think it's absolutely gorgeous, and I would love to know what you guys think. Sometimes in the thrift store, you can find a frame very inexpensive, especially if the glass and backing are missing. I'm going to take the inside measurements where the glass would normally sit, and mine measured about 10 inches by 13 inches, and I'm going to trace and cut out that particular size using a piece of foam board from Dollar Tree and my utility knife. This is the perfect thickness to set inside of the frame, and it won't be flimsy. We're going to be using this beautiful Christmas gift bag from Dollar Tree. Again, I'm going to cut the front only off and then lay my backing over top of the design so that I can trace and cut that out. For this small piece on the side, we're going to use that in a future project, so you don't want to throw your pieces away because you can always create something else with them. To attach it to the foam board, I'm going to be using some double-sided sticky tape, but of course you could Mod Podge it or use a spray adhesive. And this project is complete. It only took a couple of minutes and only cost a couple of dollars, and these would make great gifts. You could create one-of-a-kind gifts using a gift bag. When I saw this bag, it made me think of my mom with all the beautiful designs on it. She's always been very encouraging and supportive of me to follow my dreams, and I want her to do the same. She's worked her entire life, and now that she has retired, she has a passion for painting and has always dreamed of writing a book of her life story. I want to create a custom gift for her so that she can begin this journey, and I'm going to do that with the help of today's sponsor, Cricut. Once I remove the handles and the labels and the stickers, I want to preserve as much of the bag as I can, so I am going to cut the front as well as the back side off, and then try to get it to lay as flat as possible. Then I'm going to use a standard grip Cricut mat to place the front of the gift bag down and make sure I press it all the way across so there's no wrinkles in it. Then I went over to Cricut Design Space and I just used a regular rectangle that measures 9.1 by 10.5 and then a smaller rectangle that measures 5.1 by 6.5, and then I lined them up vertically as well as horizontally so that it was centered. Then attach the two together, or you could also click slice and it will just take that center rectangle out. It will then ask you if you are using a mat, which I did select, and then I'm going to center up my image to make sure that it is exactly where I placed the gift bag on the mat. Then it'll tell you to select your material. Because it is a gift bag, I just chose light cardstock at 65 pounds. And then we're going to let the Cricut machine do its magic. I was very impressed at how well it cut this gift bag, so it really depends on the thickness of your gift bag. Mine was not super thick. I know some of them kind of feel like cardboard, so you may have to select a different material. I peeled it up, and because it's pretty thin, it did curl up on me, so I just flipped this over and set something on each corner so that it would flatten back out. The back side of the gift bag, I'm going to cut this down to 11 inches by 9¼ inches and made sure that all 4 edges were straight. Because I'm using a 1½ inch binder that I found at Dollar General, and I'm going to place the back of the gift bag on the back of the binder and then place my border on the front of the binder right underneath that plastic sleeve. Now I did cut a small piece of the gift bag down to try to fit on the side, but it has this piece that's sort of attached holding the plastic on, so I just removed that. I'm going to put something different there. I'm going to head back over to Design Space and slice this so that I can remove those two center sections, and I'm only left with the frame, because I want to add some text and I want to make sure that it stays within the frame that I created with the gift bag. If you have Cricut access, they have tons of beautiful fonts to choose from. I chose Dom Casual. I created 2 separate text boxes so that I could have a different amount of space between the top line and the paragraph or sentence below that. Once I have it the font size that I want, I am going to select both text boxes and make sure that I align them so that they are centered. Then I am going to go ahead and click Make It. Now, because I don't need the frame anymore, I can just go up to the left corner and hide that, and then it will only cut the decal. Now I did create 2 separate decals, and I did use my Cricut Joy for this because I have this gorgeous like rose gold vinyl, and I only had a little bit of it left, so I had to put it on a smaller mat. And I will try to have all of the Cricut items that I used today. I'll try to have links for those in the description box for you. I just think this rose gold vinyl is really going to look so pretty with that gift bag design. Now I am going to take my mom's name, and it says Volume 1, and I'm going to put that decal on the outside edge of the binder, and this vinyl stuck perfectly to that plastic piece on the outside of the binder. This is how it's looking so far. Now I'm going to add that decal right in the center of the frame on the front and fill it full of paper. I chose a binder because as she's writing her story, if she makes a mistake, she can tear the page out. If she needs to add more pages, she can. We're not finished yet. I want to make a card to go with this gift. Through Cricut Access, you can select projects and they have pre-made cards already there for you to choose from. I chose flower vase, and then I'm going to select the size of my card, and I already have some Cricut cards and they measure 4¼ inch by 5½ inches. And then I can put this on my Cricut Joy card mat and it's going to cut the design out for me. I'm going to peel the front of that back, and then all of the pieces that are left on the mat, I can use my Cricut scraping tool to scrape that off. And then I can turn my card around to the inside, place that on my card mat, and then head back over to Cricut Design Space. I've already chose a card template, and now I can add a text box, type exactly what I want my card to say, and choose the font I want to use. And then once I replace the blade in the Cricut Joy with the Cricut Joy pen, it will write my card out for me. What an easy way to create a beautiful, custom, one-of-a-kind card. Now, Cricut does have some of those inserts that you can place behind the design, but keeping with our gift bag theme, I thought I would take one of these very small gift bags from Dollar Tree, cut the front off, and then I can trim that down to the exact size that it needs to be to fit in behind the front part of the card. It's just going to slide right into those little cuts that the Cricut Joy machine made. Now I can put this in the envelope that the card pack comes with, and I can give this gift to my mom. For this project, we're using one of these stackable organizing drawers, and you can find these at Dollar Tree. Starting with the drawer itself, that piece of gift bag that we cut off of the previous project, we're going to use that to trace out our design and cut that out so that it will fit on the inside back of the drawer. We're going to attach that using some Mod Podge, and once we place that in there and make sure we push it all the way to the edges, we're going to go over it with another layer of Mod Podge. While that's drying, we're going to take the outside of the drawer, and using one of Dollar Tree's sponge daubers and some white chalk paint, and we're going to daub the paint all over what is the bottom of the drawer holder, but it's going to be the back of our project. This is going to create a nice texture to it. Now, when you get to some of those raised portions, you will have to take a paintbrush to really get into all of those creases. But then you go over it with your sponge dauber, and it's going to give you that snowy texture. This will take 2 coats. We're going to do an entire coat on the 2 sides, the bottom, and the back. And for the front, we're just going to do it around the edges all the way around. Once you have that filled in, sort of like a faux window, you're also going to want to take that onto the inside edge a little bit to cover up some of that clear acrylic. Then, using the drawer itself, we're going to take that same sponge dauber and apply the paint all over the front of the drawer, including the handle. We're going to take some of Dollar Tree's mini bottle brush trees. I have a miniature snowman. This came from Hobby Lobby, but you could find miniatures at Dollar Tree. We're going to hot glue one tree down on each side to the bottom of the drawer. Put our snowman in the middle. To light up our shadow box, we're going to take some Dollar Tree fairy lights and place this on the inside of the outer portion of the drawer. Put your battery pack towards the back. You can now slide your drawer inside, and I made a miniature bow using some Dollar Tree ribbon to glue right on the front of the handle. For this project, we're using a 12 by 12 canvas. Now, I found this one at Dollar General. I am going to add staples to the front of the canvas on all four sides, then take my utility knife and cut on the outside edge of the staples that I just put in, because we're going to turn this into a reverse canvas. We're going to take that extra canvas material and pull it off to expose the wood frame. So the back is going to become the front and the front is going to become the back. Then we're going to flip that back over. We're going to remove all of the staples from the wood pieces. And I'm using my heavy duty staple lifter, and then I'll take some pliers to pull those the rest of the way out. Now, depending on what color you want to paint your frame will depend on whether or not you want to fill those holes in with some wood filler. Since I'm going to be painting mine fairly dark, I'm just going to go over it with some sandpaper. Before I paint that, I'm going to take the inside measurements of the frame so I'll know exactly how much to cut off of this gift bag. I believe I found this gift bag at Rose's or maybe even Big Lots. I'm going to use my Cricut cutter to cut that down to make sure all of the edges are nice and straight, and I made sure that it was going to fit inside of the canvas frame before painting. I am going to paint my frame, just the wood parts, with one coat of a black acrylic paint and let that dry. Then I'm going to apply a nice thick layer of Mod Podge because my bag is pretty thick, and I'm going to make sure I spread that all the way to the edges. Now, I like to wait for my Mod Podge to completely dry. This is just the method I prefer to use. Once I get my gift bag in there and I have all the edges pushed down, I'm going to set this on a heating mat, place a piece of parchment paper over it, and then go over it with my mini iron. This really helps to make sure that all of the corners and the edges adhere well. Again, my bag was pretty thick. I'm not going to go over the top layer of the bag with Mod Podge. I'm just going to leave it as is. The next project I shared a couple of weeks ago, so in case you missed it, I thought you might enjoy this one. If you've seen it before, you could just skip ahead to the next project. We're using an 8 by 10 canvas, and I'm going to add a layer of Mod Podge to the entire top part as well as the sides. Then we can set that to the side and let it dry. I'm also using a gift bag. This is an absolutely gorgeous gift bag. I love the style, the farmhouse feel of the tractor, but you could pick whatever style you like. A snowman, a Christmas tree, anything will work for this. I actually found this bag at Rose's, but Dollar Tree carries some very beautiful gift bags. I cut the front of the bag apart, but I did leave some sides and top and bottom because my original idea was to wrap this entire canvas, including the sides, with it. I'm going to trim that down a little bit more so it's more manageable and cut that down once I know exactly where the design is going to lay on the canvas. Our Mod Podge is dry, so now we can attach our gift bag to the front of this. I'm going to do that by placing a piece of parchment paper over there, using my mini iron and just gently going over that to reactivate the Mod Podge and adhere the bag to the canvas. I'm using the parchment paper because it really helps my iron to glide over top of this and also protects my iron from getting any kind of glue on it. And if you're interested in one of those mini irons, I do have that listed in my Amazon store, and the link to that's in my description box below. Once I started looking at it, I really didn't like that candy cane stripe feel on the sides. So I'm going to set this on my cutting board and using my utility knife, just trim the sides off, but I do want to wrap the top and bottom so it will have that continuous design. I'm going to use the same method with the parchment paper and the iron to get that on there. And I did kind of crease it up really well before I did that. And I do have a little bit extra, and I could trim that off, but I just decided to hot glue it to the back. And this is how it's looking so far. It's white on each of the sides, and I think that looks better than the red and white stripe. Now is the time of year to find these fairy lights at Dollar Tree. I like using these because the wire is very thin and the lights are tiny. They're not super bulky. They carry them in a nice warm white as well as a cool white. Now I want the lights to show up in the headlights, the wreath, and the tree, and to get a tiny hole in there so it won't be as visible on the front, but that the lights will peek through. I'm using a doll needle, and you can find this at Walmart or any craft store, just to poke through the gift bag and the canvas. Then I can find the two center lights, and to hold the wire in place, I'm going to use some of Dollar Tree's adhesive dots. If you've never used these before, it's just like these little sticky glue pieces that you peel off, and it'll go right over the wire and onto the canvas to hold your lights right over the holes you just poked in there. Then I can determine where I want to put the holes in the tree, but make sure you move your lights out of the way so you don't poke your wire. I can go ahead and put 4 holes up there, add my lights just like we previously did, holding them in place with the glue dots, and then I can do the same thing for the wreath in the front, and I'll have 4 lights to put there. Once you have all of your lights in place, the battery pack will sit perfectly right on the back side of the canvas. I have another beautiful farmhouse gift bag that I want to use, so I'm going to cut the front of this off, and I'm using one of these MDF signs from Dollar Tree that I found back in the fall. I am going to trim my bag down to fit within those 2 frames at the top and the bottom, and I'm going to adhere it to the sign using a very generous amount of Mod Podge because this bag is pretty thick. It's almost like cardboard, and I didn't have to wait for the Mod Podge to dry because it's so thick, so I don't have to worry about any kind of wrinkles. I did leave a little bit of excess on the sides so that I could flip this over and trim it off nice and neat with my utility knife. I hope you enjoyed today's projects, and if you have a favorite, let me know in the comments section down below because I always love to know which one is your favorite. If you haven't subscribed already, I would love for you to click that subscribe button right below the video. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Please take care, and I'll see you guys next time.